The alarm clock screams at 4 in the morning. While the world sleeps, a shadow moves through the empty streets of Miami. No cameras, no crowds, no glory. Just Muhammad Ali and the darkness that holds his deepest secrets. What you're about to discover will change everything you thought you knew about the greatest boxer of all time. The year is 1974. Ali's footsteps echo against the wet asphalt of 5th Street. His breath creates small clouds in the humid Florida air as he runs alone, guided only by the dim streetlights. But this isn't just training. This is something much more profound, something that shaped not only his career, but his entire philosophy of life. I wake up every morning at 4 because that's when God speaks loudest. Ali whispers to himself as he passes the closed shops. His routine begins with something that would surprise even his closest friends. Before the running, before the training, Ali spends exactly 1 hour in complete silence, sitting on the floor of his small apartment, not praying, not meditating in the traditional sense, but doing something he calls listening to tomorrow. During these early morning hours, Ali doesn't just prepare his body. He prepares his mind for battles that go far beyond the ring. In the solitude of dawn, he practices the speeches that will later shake the world. I am the greatest wasn't born in front of cameras. It was forged in the darkness of 4 in the morning, repeated hundreds of times until it became an unshakable truth. The real secret of his routine lies in what he does after running. Ali returns home and sits at a small wooden table where he writes. Not training notes, not fight strategies, but letters. Letters to children in hospitals, responses to fans who wrote to him, and most surprisingly, letters to his future self. Dear Muhammad of tomorrow, one of these letters begins, remember that every punch you take today is for every kid who believes they can't make it. His wife Belinda often wakes up to find these letters scattered across the table. Muhammad would write like his life depended on it, she would later recall. He said that at 4 in the morning, his thoughts were pure, without the noise of the world interfering. But the most shocking part of his routine happens at exactly 5:30. Ali puts on a worn-out coat and walks to the nearby diner, Joe's Corner, where he sits at the same table every day. The owner, Joe Martinez, a 60-year-old Cuban immigrant, becomes his confidant during these early hours. Champ, you don't need to prove anything to anyone, Joe tells him one particular morning, while serving black coffee and scrambled eggs. Joe, you don't understand, Ali responds, his voice carrying a weight that few people ever heard. Every time I step in that ring, I'm not just fighting for me. I'm fighting for every person who's ever been told they're not good enough, for every kid who looks like me and thinks the world is against them. This conversation reveals the true purpose behind Ali's 4 a.m. routine. It wasn't about physical preparation. It was about mental and spiritual preparation for a mission much larger than boxing. Ali understood that his platform as a boxer was just the vehicle for something greater. If you're enjoying this incredible story and want to discover more secrets about legendary figures, hit that subscribe button and tell me in the comments, what time do you wake up to pursue your dreams? Your answer might surprise you. During these early morning conversations, Joe becomes the keeper of Ali's deepest fears and greatest ambitions. Sometimes I'm scared, Joe, Ali confesses one rainy morning. Not of getting hit, not of losing a fight, but of not living up to what people expect from me. And what do people expect, champ? They expect me to be invincible. But at 4 in the morning, when it's just me and the silence, I remember I'm just a man trying to make a difference. These vulnerable moments at Joe's diner reveal a side of Ali that the world rarely saw. Behind the bravado and the famous phrases was a man deeply aware of his responsibility and the weight of his influence. The routine also includes something that would only be discovered years later. Ali carries a small notebook where he writes down the names of people who inspire him. Not famous people, but ordinary individuals he meets during his early morning walks. Maria, the nurse who works the night shift at Jackson Memorial Hospital. Robert, the janitor who cleans the office buildings downtown. Sarah, the single mother who works 2 jobs to support her 3 children. These are the real champions, Ali writes in his notebook. They fight battles every day that no one sees, and they never give up. This practice of recognizing everyday heroes becomes central to Ali's philosophy and influences how he sees his own role in the world. He begins to understand that his fame is not an end in itself, but a tool to amplify the voices of those who don't have a platform. At 6:15, Ali's routine takes an unexpected turn. He visits the local library, which opens early for students and workers. There, in the silence between the bookshelves, he reads. Not sports magazines or newspapers, but philosophy books, biographies of civil rights leaders, and poetry. His favorite author during this period is James Baldwin, whose words about identity and resistance deeply resonate with the boxer. If you know from whence you came, there is really no limit to where you can go. Ali reads aloud, his voice echoing softly between the empty shelves. These words become a mantra that guides not only his boxing career, but his activism and his stance against the Vietnam War. The librarian, Mrs. Dorothy Williams, an elderly African-American woman, becomes another important figure in Ali's morning routine. Young man, she tells him one morning, knowledge is the only weapon they can never take away from you. Mrs. Williams, sometimes I feel like I'm fighting two battles, one in the ring and another outside of it. That's because you are, child, and both are equally important. These conversations help Ali understand that his refusal to serve in Vietnam and his conversion to Islam are not separate from his boxing career, but integral parts of the same mission. At 7 o'clock, Ali returns home for the final part of his routine. He sits in front of a mirror and practices not his boxing moves, but his facial expressions. He studies how to convey confidence, how to intimidate opponents with just a look, and most importantly, how to inspire hope in those who look up to him. The face is the first thing people see, he tells himself. It needs to tell the right story. This practice explains the magnetic presence Ali had both inside and outside the ring. Every expression, every gesture was carefully crafted during those solitary hours at dawn, but perhaps the most revealing part of his routine is what happens at 7:30. Ali takes out a photo of himself as a 12-year-old boy, the day his bicycle was stolen in Louisville, the day he first walked into a boxing gym. He looks at that photo and makes a promise. I will never forget where I came from, and I will never stop fighting for that little boy and all the little boys and girls who need someone to believe in them. This daily ritual of reconnecting with his origins keeps Ali grounded despite all the fame and success. It reminds him that his mission goes far beyond personal glory. The 4 a.m. routine continues throughout Ali's entire career, even during the most difficult periods. When he's stripped of his titles for refusing to serve in Vietnam, when he faces financial difficulties, when the world seems to turn against him, Ali maintains his early morning discipline. Consistency in the darkness creates strength in the light, becomes one of his personal mottos. Years later, when journalists ask Ali about the secret to his success, he never mentions the 4 a.m. routine. It remains his private sanctuary, a sacred space where the public Muhammad Ali transforms into the private man, seeking meaning and purpose. The impact of this routine extends far beyond boxing. The mental discipline developed during those early morning hours helps Ali face the most difficult challenges of his life, with unwavering determination. When doctors tell him he can no longer fight, when Parkinson's disease begins to affect his speech, when the world starts to forget his achievements, Ali draws strength from those 4 a.m. lessons. Joe Martinez, the diner owner, keeps Ali's usual table reserved for years after the boxer stops coming. That table taught me that greatness isn't about what you do when everyone is watching, Joe reflects. It's about what you do when no one is watching. Mrs. Williams, the librarian, frames one of the philosophy books Ali used to read, with a note he left inside. Knowledge is power, but wisdom is knowing how to use that power to help others. The letters Ali wrote to his future self are discovered years later, revealing a man who was constantly challenging himself to be better, not just as an athlete, but as a human being. In one of these letters, he writes, Remember, Muhammad, that every morning at 4 a.m. is a new opportunity to become the man the world needs you to be. The true legacy of Ali's 4 a.m. routine isn't found in his boxing records or his famous phrases. It's found in the thousands of lives he touched through his activism, in the children who learned to believe in themselves because of his example, and in the understanding that true greatness comes from serving something greater than yourself. Today, when young athletes ask about the secret to achieving greatness, they often receive advice about training techniques, nutrition, and mental preparation. But Ali's real secret was simpler and more profound. Wake up every day before the world does, and use that time to remember why you're fighting. The 4 a.m. routine reveals that Muhammad Ali wasn't just the greatest boxer of all time. He was a man who understood that true strength comes from within, that real victory is measured not by the fights you win, but by the lives you change, and that the most important battles are fought not in front of crowds, but in the solitude of your own heart. As the sun rises over Miami, ending another of Ali's secret mornings, the man who would become a legend walks home with the quiet satisfaction of someone who knows he's living with purpose. The world will soon wake up to see Muhammad Ali the boxer, the entertainer, the controversial figure. But for a few precious hours each day, he was simply Muhammad, a man trying to make the world a little better, one 4 a.m. morning at a time. This is the story they never told you about Muhammad Ali, a story of discipline, purpose, and the understanding that true greatness is built not in moments of glory, but in the quiet hours when no one is watching. If this story inspired you to look at success differently, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and share this video with someone who needs to hear this message. Because just like Ali discovered at 4 in the morning, the most powerful transformations happen when we're willing to do what others won't, when others won't do it. What will your 4 a.m. routine look like?